Welcome to Waves, West Alabama, Voices Echoing Success, the podcast where local voices inspire big impact. Brought to you monthly by the Chamber of Commerce of West Alabama, this is your source for stories of leadership, innovation, and success.
All right, welcome into another episode of Waves. Today, a much anticipated guest. We've been talking about this for quite some time, but today we have Katrina Keefer, the CEO of the DCH Health System, with us. Thank you for being with us, first and foremost.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of good things to talk about, some broad healthcare things, but, I think the first thing that needs to be said is how much different DCH looks now than it did 3 years ago when you came on board. So first, as the community, thank you. And so many positive things moving forward, while healthcare continues to be a huge concern nationally.
That's right. Well, thank you. And I think our facilities are all different, both inside and out. And I think the cultural change on the inside has really led to improved patient care, and really appreciative of the community letting us work hard to regain the trust and I know that we're taking better care of our patients, and our caregivers are very engaged, and it's been a lot of fun. To your point on the national stage, there's a lot going on. And I think to get the big, beautiful bill passed, there were some dollars set aside for rural health care. And although rural hospital closures were threatened, those dollars that are allocated are not necessarily going to go to rural hospitals. So the state is going to put together a great plan, I'm sure. We have to submit a letter of intent by September 30th, and the plan needs to be complete by the beginning of November. And so there's a group within the state that'll be working on that to submit that to Governor Ivey and hopefully get those dollars flowing. We're guaranteed as a state $100 million a year in each of the next 5 years. So we're really hopeful that the rural health transformation dollars can actually truly be used to transform healthcare in rural areas.
Yeah, and like you said, a lot of that will look different in time, right?
That's right.
Just the landscape of healthcare in general is changing. How we deliver that healthcare is changing, and the finances that go into that obviously play a big role and a part of that transformation.
That's right. I do think that one of the problems with healthcare and the healthcare delivery system is everybody's chasing the dollars, and the dollars usually follow higher acute and higher chronic care instead of focusing on well-being. And so that's where we're trying to shift the paradigm now, have just opened our first primary care clinic, hired our first 2 primary care physicians. I think that we've got to start taking care of patients maybe before they need acute illnesses. And then once they're in our hospitals and they don't have follow-up care, to help find a way for them to get that follow-up care that they need. And so that in hopes that over time, we can get people just to come to the hospital that need the hospital. And so that takes investment up front. But sometimes you got to spend $1 to do the right thing for your community.
And a paradigm shift too, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of it is perception and kind of getting people in habits that create better health outcomes.
Better health outcomes, and providing enough, particularly behavioral health services, so that we can ensure that they get what they need. I do believe that there are options with telemedicine services, and there is a lot of that push coming. I think that we are unique in West Alabama, that we've got a lot of rural hospitals that actually have assets and capabilities that are maybe underutilized now in some ways, but maybe need some advanced imaging. I was just with a hospital administrator, and she doesn't have a mammogram unit. But if we could invest in a mammogram unit there and detect earlier cancers, I mean, just the life-changing things that could happen in our rural communities. And I really am hopeful we can do that. And I really want to focus on infant mortality and decreasing infant mortality and maternal mortality. And I feel like we've got a plan that is going to get us there.
Yeah, those are all awesome things. And I think the one thing that over time I've come to realize is that the DCH system actually sits in the middle of some of the poorest counties in the entire country.
That's right.
And you're serving an underserved population probably beyond what anybody could think of.
Could grasp. We have we're on track about 100,000 patients in our emergency departments among our 3 hospitals. About half of those don't have a payer source or are a Medicaid payer source. So we really have to, for us, we can get a return on our investment if we can take care of those patients in another setting. And
Right.
so that is one thing. But I think sometimes people just take for granted that DCH is just going to be there. And they have had fun in the past, just sort of, picking on them as not being perfect. But I think that the improvements that we've made are hopeful that the community can be proud of DCH, but also realize that we really anchor West Alabama and that the rest of West Alabama is really counting on our success.
Yep.
And I'm really proud of the relationships that we're building with providers in West Alabama so that we can really think about how we solve problems differently and not just try to spend money doing sort of the same thing a little bit differently. We need to materially transform healthcare and bring in other providers. If I want to talk about addressing diabetes in rural communities, yes, I interviewed an endocrinologist that has finishing diabetes fellowship, and I sent her an offer letter yesterday after an awesome visit to Tuscaloosa this weekend with her boyfriend. And I can do that, and that's great for Tuscaloosa
Right.
and for my diabetes center. But if I really want to transform, I got to figure out how to make her skills go further in rural Alabama, but also how are they going to get healthy food?
Right.
How are we going to work in the food banks? How do we work in trusted resources? How do we work with transportation services to help get people to come to Tuscaloosa when they need to come to Tuscaloosa, but be able to help healthcare stay local? And I think we just really have to have conversations in different rooms and bring people together and really not be afraid to figure out how it works. I think everybody always wants to get stuck in it. We don't have enough money for that.
Right.
I always say we're hospital people, we're COVID people. We figured out how to deliver vaccinations. We figured out how to test en masse. We figured out these things. Let's write out how it ought to be and then get somebody to tell us why they shouldn't fund it.
Yeah.
And or why we shouldn't fund it ourselves because we wouldn't have a better ROI for our bottom line as well as for our community. So I'm really excited about the future.
Well, you teed up a point that I wanted to get to. The recruiting effort that you've had with physicians and support staff, all of that kind of down through the organization has been eye-opening. But tell us what all goes into that, how the community plays a role in that recruiting process.
I'll tell you, it is so important. And first of all, I'm so excited that I'm trying to recruit individuals to Tuscaloosa.
Right.
Tuscaloosa is an awesome place to be. So exciting, so much going on. It does not matter what you are interested in, Tuscaloosa has something for you. And so we've been able to connect with recruits, whether they're administrative recruits. I've really rebuilt the leadership team from top to really middle manager level, even some promotion within,
Right.
but some recruiting from without. And then particularly physicians come into the community and figure out what they or their significant other is important to them, what they like to do, and inviting others to be a part of that transition. I had coffee with a woman this morning. She said, I'm happy to help anytime I can with recruits. We took this particular recruit on a boat ride from captain's cabin up to dockside and then bumped into some big supporters and good friends who were able to visit with them. And then we took them back and met these other people and the endocrinologist meeting another primary care doctor. And I mean, it was just the way that we integrate and we try to make it seamless, which is pretty fun. It is a little bit orchestrated, but then because we're Tuscaloosa and we all know each other and like each other and want to help each other, everybody just comes together and it blows people's minds.
Right.
And so, my husband and I like the Opera Guild and we love football and basketball and gymnastics and all the sports, but it's also fun, the arts and some of the other maybe smaller theater alliance type activities that we've been able to be exposed to. So the community sells Tuscaloosa. We just try to ensure that the recruits get to see
all of it, right?
as much of it
Yeah.
as we think they would be interested in.
Yeah, it's got the small town feel, but at the same time, a
Big
lot of the
city
big
offerings.
city offerings, and so that's awesome. And oftentimes, not saying it's a bad thing, we get pigeonholed to 7 Saturdays in the fall
Yeah.
as people's experience within our community, and we've got a lot more to offer. Those are good Saturdays. And
They're
those
good for
kinds of things.
economic development.
No doubt about it. But taking that to another step, we've also seen incremental successes when it comes to finances.
Yes.
A lot of progress on that front. Coming from a long ways behind that Mason-Dixon line, so to speak. But tell us a little bit about where we're at, what's to come. As far as the financial shape of the hospital system?
Well, when I arrived, we were about a $550 million organization in 2022. And since then, I've been articulating, and most people who are watching this probably have heard me speak before, to say you can't cut your way to profitability. In healthcare, you have to grow. Your provision of services has to grow. The acuity of your services has to grow. So bringing in neurosurgeons and cardiothoracic surgeons and urologists and proceduralists and general surgeons is very important. So we've seen a lot of top line growth, and so our budget next year is 796, but we'll round to 800 million in net revenue growth over the years. And we've been able to have that materialize on the bottom line from an operating income standpoint of losing $80 million to next year we'll be profitable. And so it went from
That's amazing.
but it had to be, you have to do this in incrementals. I call them incremental sustainable steps, a Katrina-ism. Minus 80, minus 44. This year we'll finish minus 21. Next year will be $300,000 profit. And then if you add back the 40 million of depreciation, we hit the 19 million of cash flow this year. So, you have to sort of build your way out of this. But I really think the sky's the limit. I say all the time, we are sitting on a gold mine. We just have to be very prudent with our capital spending as we're rebuilding facilities and as we're expanding services, just to really deploy our capital in very smart ways right now while we're still continuing to build and to rebuild our balance sheet. But I could not be more thrilled with the progress that we're making. And the teams are just doing a great job. We had a big health system management team yesterday, and I was talking to them about, it would be great if we could cut 1% more of non-labor dollars. That allows us to reinvest in our budget next year. We've got an additional $8 million for caregiver salaries that we expect to give in market and merit adjustments throughout the year. So, I feel like it's really important to reinvest in our people, and we can only do that with growth and discipline.
Yeah, but those moves have to be, pun intended here, but surgical, right?
Yes.
And so that we're thinking for the long term.
That's right.
But you said something that caught me in one of my notes here. We've done all of that on the financial side of the system while also increasing our leapfrog scores.
That's right.
And if you could go into a little bit of what is compiled within those scores and kind of that progress that we've made on that front as well.
Yeah, Leapfrog is just, I'd say, one more outward grading agency that assigns hospital grades through publicly available information. And then if you complete the survey, you can get additional points. They're usually released a couple times a year. And I've never been in a market where we really cared about Leapfrog because it was kind of like the Newsweek or the USA and World Report. But it was really supposed to be a reflection of the safety of the care in your facility. But when I got to Tuscaloosa, with not being in a great space culturally, not being in a great space financially, not being in a great space reputationally, when the community saw that Leapfrog had us at a D, it validated the community's perception of that D and that DCH was not good. And so we went to work. And so incremental sustainable steps, we went from a low D to a high D to a low C to a low B to a higher B. So we really have just over time wanted to demonstrate that we can provide safer care. the leapfrog is a open book test.
Yep.
Some of it's publicly available, and some of it is old and cold and is back from the days of having very high COVID census years before my arrival.
Right.
But a lot of it is more recent with your patient experience. How do people feel about being in your hospital?
That's right.
Are they having a good
It goes back to those perceptions,
That's
right?
right. And
Yep.
service excellence. Did we meet or exceed your needs? And so it's a compilation of all of those things. And so we feel good about where we are, particularly given grades of other competing hospitals that I say competing hospitals. I don't know that we need to compete with people that far away, but with reputations of hospitals that are larger academic centers or larger conglomerates, even in our state or in our region, who have much lower scores than we have now. That doesn't mean they're a bad hospital.
Right.
They might not have completed the survey or they might not care about it.
Right.
But because Tuscaloosa cares, we want to do it, and we do believe we've done it in the right way to make sure that the infrastructure that we're establishing really does provide for incrementally safer care.
Yeah, and you talk about it like it's been done over this long period of time, but I think it's awfully important to be mindful that this has been over a 3-year period. I know it's
That's
probably
what I look like.
Yeah, it probably seems like longer than that to you, but we as the public have to realize that all of this progress has been made over a very short window of time.
Yeah, 3 years, and it's been a great 3 years. And I've just been so appreciative of how Tuscaloosa has welcomed me and my husband. It has been a great place to be, and the energy and enthusiasm and encouragement that I think many of our caregivers feel. When you talk bad about the hospital, and it's the second largest employer, one of those 4,700 people who work for me probably lives next door to you.
Right.
And so we want for them to be proud of the care that they're providing and be proud to wear a DCH t-shirt to the grocery store and be proud to wear that out. And so I do feel like we're seeing that tide turn, and that has been a lot of fun. And I know for our caregivers who have been there for a long time, when they were a little, I don't know, didn't really want to tell people where they worked because the public wasn't as appreciative as perhaps they could have been. Now to see them get to be proud of where they work again. And so we're just going to keep waking up every day trying to create an environment that we can keep those best and brightest who have been bleeding DCH blue for a long time, continue to make them proud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get a head start on your holiday shopping at Celebrate Local. Shop the halls. Join us Wednesday, November 19th, 2025 from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the Bryant Conference Center on the University of Alabama campus. Enjoy a festive shopping experience with local boutiques, artists, and more with free admission. Presented by Visit Tuscaloosa and Premier Service Company. An event by the Chamber of Commerce of West Alabama.
I'm going to shift gears just a little bit, and something that we've had the opportunity to work on together that is a huge concern, need, all the things here in our community, probably more acutely than others in the state of Alabama, but mental health. Tuscaloosa has historically been the mental health capital of the state, and the infrastructure that has been here in our community, while changed in a lot of ways, has put increased pressure and capacity limits on some of the offerings that you provide within the system, but also on the community as a whole. So can you talk about the role that mental health is playing in what you guys see going forward, and ways that we can maybe encourage the state to get involved in some of those things that do acutely affect our community?
Yeah, so I just left a meeting with hospital administrators from West Alabama and our local delegation to talk about the rural health transformation dollars, and about 40 minutes of the hour were spent talking about mental health.
Yep.
Because even the small rural hospitals feel it acutely when mental health patients come into their facilities and they don't have a way to transfer them. So we're working, I'll back up, at our Northport facility, our emergency department there, we do have 6 safe psychiatric hold beds, and those fill up very quickly, almost always full. Some of those are with very violent patients, some of those, and after those 6, if someone shows to the emergency room, we actually have to move them in and commingle them with other populations, which often can make wait times at Northport seem a lot longer for people who think they're going to run in and out. So there's that impact to the community, which is not helpful. At North Harbor, we have 58 beds. Half of those are geropsych, and half are adult. But those adult beds are the only adult capacity in our community for for the acute patients. So trying to get those patients transitioned after we have medically stabilized them. There aren't beds at Bryce. We have now, I think, 160, less than 170 for the state of Alabama. So I think you've heard me say we had a patient that was at North Harbor for 542 days waiting on a bed on number 45. Finally got into Bryce after that many days. And so that just the downstream and not having places to put patients is really continues to put pressure on the system. There aren't enough community providers. Mm-hmm. There aren't enough group homes. And so all of those things just converge. Everybody else can throw their hands up and say, we're out of money, or we don't have resources, or it's hard, or I don't want to do that. But for the hospital, quote another fellow that was just at a meeting, we've got the blue sign with an H on it, which is we're always open. And because of EMTALA laws, if you come to our emergency department, we have to take care of you, and we have to hold you till you can have a safe discharge. So all of that is just additional pressure that's unpaid, and we can whine about it, but I'm really encouraged that we really want to think differently about it in our community. We do have a beautiful crisis center in Hope Point that Indian Rivers has built and run, and then now have some additional observation beds. And so we're hopeful that we can work on letting that be a designated mental health area so that they can see more patients, not just on a voluntary basis, but on an involuntary basis for patients that just need to be stabilized. So we're working through some solutions, we hope, there. The University of Alabama has 24 ACGME accredited psychiatric residency slots, and hopes to welcome the first group of 6. So when you think about long-term sustainability, being able to train more caregivers. So I think on a lot of fronts we're trying to go around the edges. I think what we really need is additional outpatient and follow-up care. And much of the work that the TPD is doing and the fire department is doing through the crisis, Craig Parker and his team, and then at the fire department having social workers, is really a great resource for our community that really helps us to decompress our emergency departments. But their caseloads are full. So how do we help augment their teams and not try to recreate them? And I think, again, that's why I think through relationship building that we've developed over the last 3 years, that we're able to maybe help each other in unique ways that is that sort of crosses boundaries and crosses silos that were once there. And I think until we think like that as a community and as a region, we're not going to even tap the problem. And finally, I just have to throw in that adolescent psych is just woefully missing. And we are looking to expand an adolescent and at least open some kind of adolescent psych unit within the North Harbor campus as quickly as administratively possible. Lots of hurdles to go through, but that's life-changing and can be allow us to take care of.
It's an investment on the front end, like you were talking about, with those long-term healthcare outcomes.
Benefits. And so again, I just think we've got to think differently than we have in the past. And I think acute care hospitals are going to have to continue to just try to work together to figure out how to do it. But I think that we can work with our partners in mental health and our partners in public health and our partners in DHR law enforcement, to really be able to work together and everybody take a little piece of ownership instead of everybody trying to sort of do something, but us really put together a coordinated plan.
Yeah, and so, we often hear about the capacity issues within the jails and prison being taken up by those that are mentally ill and need some additional service besides just being in a jail. But they're causing those capacity issues in the ED just the same, right?
That's right.
Within the infrastructure that is mental health, whether it be local providers or the state providing those things. And again, that acuteness to our community is the fact that we have the major mental health facilities in
That's
our
right.
community. And so I think there is a perception within the community and outside that, hey, you can go to Tuscaloosa and get better mental health care, but it's causing some major
Downstream effects.
correct.
And I will also say that the first onset of attack for most adults is between 18 and 24. I may not have my numbers right. Valerie Stone at North Harbor will get me, but it's college age.
And we've got
We've got
42,000
that are just at the University of Alabama, plus Shelton and Bevel and everybody else. And so for a lot of those kids, they come to college and they have their first episode. So it's not just all the traditional kinds of mental health issues that communities face across our state and nation. It's particularly acute because of our population and because of our state assets in our inpatient unit. So we hit the lottery on that one.
There you go. Well, I want to kind of move into a conversation around workforce in general. Obviously, that's something that's near and dear to the chamber. But as you're looking at it from a healthcare perspective, how full is that pipeline? How do we create a deeper, wider pipeline for you guys and for other providers throughout West Alabama? And then talk to us a little bit about what you think the asset could be with the new healthcare high school that I know you've been involved with some down in Demopolis.
Loaded question.
Yep.
I'll start with, for those that come through the pipelines, we've got to do a better job of holding on to them.
Gotcha.
And so we're working on our culture inside the facility. We have brought down our turnover rates. We cut them in half the first year. We held it the second year, continuing to hold at those lower rates, which is not what my colleagues across the state are seeing. So we've got to work on ourselves first. But as we work with the local schools, whether it's the university, whether it's the community college system, we've got such great relationships there, and we're a major teaching facility for them. One of the things that we're doing is working with an extern program so that we bring in nurses. The curriculum is the same for LPNs and RNs now in our state, so we can help put people on a ladder. So while they're going to nursing school, they can work with us on the same unit, get used to that, and then when they get their LPN licensure before their last few semesters, they get paid a little more. And then when they graduate, the onboarding and the time to onboard is just drastically reduced. So from an orientation standpoint, so that one's a gift that keeps on giving. We have we've doubled that program recently, hired a woman to run that for us. She's doing a great job. We have 93% retention rate of the nurses that participate. We started with 47. I think we've got almost 100 this year, continuing to grow. But I do think that the overall, the school in Demopolis, the Alabama School for Health Sciences, has the potential to be a neat game changer for all of Alabama.
Right.
And I do have the privilege of serving on that board. We've hired a principal and a foundation director, and actually I saw this morning that our own Cade Warner is going to be just been appointed to that foundation board, which will be great. My friend Jill Stork from Alabama Power and I serve on that board from this region. But we're working on curriculum development and on pathways. And so they're looking at how on third and fourth years, they can actually, in junior and senior years of high school, that they can put those students in healthcare environments, and not just in nursing, but in respiratory techs and scrub techs and, all of the things, maybe even some hospital administrators.
Right.
I didn't know
That's
that
right.
existed when I was a kid. And so anyway, just trying to think about the spectrum. There's a lot of business in hospitals. So working through those pathways. And then also I look forward to working with the University of Alabama as they are developing experiential learning so that we can work with the different colleges and universities, and those students need work experience. I want to have accountants from the business school in our accounting department and really show them that regardless of your discipline, healthcare is an industry where you could probably find a great job.
Right.
And so I think that it's all coming together. I think, again, we're uniquely positioned because of our access to so many academic organizations here, and with Donnie Jones and the workforce, all that he's doing across the state, I would love to see us replicate some of that, particularly in nursing. We are looking internationally. We're looking, so it's and we're beginning to get some traction in some of those areas, and I'm just excited about the future. I love the new minds coming in. I love watching these new people come in and get acclimated. I just recorded the beginning of a Welcome to DCH video where many of our nurse leaders are giving advice to young nurses as they're coming in to say, give yourself grace. This is a lot. And just the neat things that they'd say, learn something every day, find joy in your work. And so we really want to coach people up and make them feel at home and welcome and loved, and stay with us once the pipelines produce them.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Katrina, thank you. Thank you for being a wonderful partner to the Chamber.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you're doing to forward that mission of DCH throughout not only our community, but all of West Alabama. And we look forward, as we were talking before, if we can make as much progress over the next 3 years as we have the past 3 years, the sky's the limit.
I agree.
We certainly appreciate you being the lead on that, and look forward to supporting you in any way.
Thank you so much. And Kyle, we can't get away from this before I congratulate you publicly on you and Ed Phillips having a little boy. And I wonder, are you already working on his golf swing?
We've got little grip exercises that we've already kind of got.
Okay.
You just
all
go
right.
ahead and get those things started. So thank you for that.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
I'm glad
absolutely.
everybody's doing well.
Go
get
we
some
are
sleep.
very blessed, maybe a little sleep deprived.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and pleasure to serve DCH and the people of West Alabama.
Thank you. And again, this is the Waves Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on Waves, West Alabama Voices Echoing Success, the official podcast of the Chamber of Commerce of West Alabama. Don't forget to subscribe and tune in next month as we continue to amplify the voices shaping the future of West Alabama. For more stories and updates, visit us online at westalabamachamber.com or follow us on social media. Until next time, keep making waves.
Alabama One, a partner of West Alabama Chamber, offers a full suite of financial products, including checking and savings accounts, personal loans for home, auto, and recreational vehicles, as well as land and equipment financing. Go to alabama1.org/what's your one to learn more. Equal housing opportunity.